Okay, so in the previous tutorial we imported our prepared file from Illustrator into After Effects, and as we saw, the layer order from the Illustrator document has been carried through into the After Effects using the options that we used in the import settings. So layers, if you like, that were visible are visible in After Effects now within the composition that it automatically produced, and layers that are hidden, like these ones, are automatically hidden in here. We also see that the layer order is the same. So what I like to do before I start animation is just clean up the layer order and color code some of these layers just to make it a bit easier to skim. So to do that, I'm going to click here where it says shape 1 to select the shape 1 layer, and I'm just going to drag it until I see the blue line above shape 1 and then release. Okay, so I like things to be in an organized sort of thing. So first thing I'm going to animate is this, followed by this. Then it could well be that the trademark might come at the end, or I may just extend it as part of that. So I'm not sure, so I'll leave that there for the moment. I then have the layer with the entire word acumen on it, which I could wipe. Now, my gut feeling is I think I might try animating it. So what I'll do is I'll turn that one off and I'll bring in the individual layers instead. But either way, I'm going to color code these the same. And then at the end, the strap line will slowly fade up just before the end. Okay, now I'm guessing, I'm just going to kind of work out roughly how I want these to come in. I'm going to guess about probably, if I'm thinking this will come in and it will white 1, 2, then 3 for the second shape, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Probably about 10 seconds is kind of what I reckon I need for this. I can always adjust it later. So I'm going to click on the composition up here. I'm going to right click, go to composition settings, and I'm just going to check that my duration is about right. Okay, so at the moment you can see we are on 30 frames a second, so it's what we call base 30. So these last two ones after the semicolon refer to the number of frames. So you can see I've got no extra frames here. Then before that is seconds. So there's 10 seconds. So 30 frames a second, 10 seconds. We basically got 300 frames. Okay. And that's exactly what I want, 10 seconds here. So if you find you've got minutes, you probably want to nobble that for something like this. Obviously, it depends what you're making. But in this context, we want it to be fairly sweet, fairly simple, fairly straightforward. So I'm just going to hit OK here. I'm happy with the composition settings. So you can see on my timeline, this top bar here goes for 10 seconds, okay? And you can see in some cases, so this is 8 seconds with no frames, 8 seconds with 15 frames, etc. You've got a slider here as well if you can't see the whole 10 seconds. But obviously, if you have like a 5-minute clip and you're only animating 10 seconds, you're going to find it a bit difficult to manage. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color code some of these. So what I'm going to do is take all the layers that are actually yellow in the footage. So that would be shape 2. And if I hold down the control key, okay, rather than the shift key, and then I can select other individual layers. So trademark is also yellow and the strap line is also yellow. Now if I'd held down shift, everything in between would have been selected, but because I use control, I can select individual layers. I'm going to come to this little color chip here, just going to click, and I'm going to make them yellow, okay, and that just helps me see on here. You can see now, doesn't make any functional difference, but just helps me see which layers have got that color in. I'm going to sort of leave the others by and large default, except for the individual letters. So again, just for the sake of being able to see it more clearly on my timeline, I'm going to hold shift this time, click on the A layer, go down to the N, hold shift and click to select all of the individual letters, and I'm just going to give them a random color. I'm going to choose purple. Okay, so that just helps me see that these are different to everything else. Okay, now there's no practical benefit for that other than for me visually that makes it much easier to sort of skim the timeline and work out what's going on. So that's my first thing, which is just organizing the layers, perhaps adding some color keys and checking the composition settings. Okay, I'm just going to save it now, so I'll call this file save as, and I'll save it onto the desktop again for the moment, and we will call this Acumen Animation, and I'll just call this maybe, I don't know, start, and hit save. Okay, So I'm going to pause there. Join me in the next tutorial. What we're going to do is start basically pacing out and getting the base timing right.